Today we have Lance Giles, who's our lobbyist. He's now been our lobbyist for, I think, 3 legislative sessions. Is that right, Lance? 3 full legislative sessions. And we've enjoyed working with him. He's made a monumental difference for Idaho Walk Bike and for the state of Idaho for safety for people walking and biking. Just a reminder to everybody that Idaho Gives starts tomorrow. That's used to be the day of giving when you can, well, you can always give to Idaho nonprofits, but this is the time of year when they're out promoting themselves and talking about all the great things we do. I think, Sarah, do you want to put that in the chat? There's a link to our Idaho Gives page in the chat. So if you want to donate to us, we'd love that. And then when you're on the Idaho Gives page, you can look around and look at all the other cool nonprofits and all the great work that they're doing around the state and donate to several. Okay, so as many of you know, the legislative session hasn't quite ended this year, still going on. We hope it ends soon, but I think, are probably one of only a handful of groups that could say that we actually had some great success this year. So I'm going to pass it on to Lance, and he's going to give us the lowdown on what we accomplished.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. And thanks everybody for taking the time out of your day to join us. As Cynthia was mentioning there, we've really had an outstanding legislative season. At least as far as I'm concerned, one of the best we've had since I've been here. And it wouldn't have been possible without all the members weighing in when we asked you to on different pieces of legislation. So just from my own perspective, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody. What I'd like to do today is just kind of give you an overview of all the different legislation that we've been either monitoring, supporting, or opposing, and kind of the outcomes of those. And then I thought I'd just give you a little bit at the end of that, after that, just kind of give you a little bit of a summary of some of the bigger picture issues since the legislature is still out there. So with that, I'll just kind of go rattle through the different bills. So the first big bill that we were focused on was House Bill 5. And House Bill 5 just tried to fix a loophole in last year's hands-free bill. And under the current bill, or under the previous legislation, there was a loophole where if somebody was texting on their phone, they could say, "Oh, I'm just putting in my navigation," so they wouldn't be guilty of using their phone while driving. So that was fixed. Really strong support in the legislature. We asked you to weigh in, and you did, and things went great on that bill. The next bill that we were focused on was House Bill 112, and this is really a bill that we were just kind of monitoring. And this basically would give a tax rebate to government agencies for the purchase of materials used in road construction. It passed the House, but it died in the Senate. House Bill 131, we're super excited about. It was promoted by ACHD, and we supported it. We testified on it. And then what it did was it allows local highway districts to increase sidewalk widths outside of city limits. Under the current law, they weren't necessarily allowed to do that. So this was again another big victory for Walk Bike. A bill that we opposed actually was House Bill 158, which was going to limit license plates to only the rear of a vehicle. We strongly oppose this because walkers and bikers really don't have a chance to, after they're struck, they really don't have a chance to look back and say, "Hey, whose license plate is that?" At the very least, they're able to notice, what state it is as they're just kind of, as they see a vehicle approach them. So luckily it was passed in the House, but again, it died in the Senate. And part of that was due to Cynthia's testimony over there. And perhaps our biggest victory of the session was House Bill 308. And what that is we've got a $2 million appropriation for walking and biking infrastructure. This was what was mentioned in the governor's State of the State address. and he followed through, the legislature followed through, and we're just really excited to see that happen. What was interesting about this bill is it will be managed by LTAC, similar to how some of these previous appropriations during the a couple years ago that we had in the Children Pedestrian Safety Program. So we're excited about that. They'll be letting out information on the grants, and hopefully the selections will be made later this year. The big picture transportation bill that's out there was House Bill 362, and it's still kind of in play. It's passed the House. The Senate is kind of holding it hostage in a sense to just wait and see what kind of mischief the House is up to, I think. But basically, this bill transfers an additional 3.5 cents from the sales tax to transportation funding, and it allows the state, allows ITD to bond with that money so they can get larger projects, what have you. And then if there's any increase as the years move along, that money will flow to the locals to use in different projects, and the locals probably won't bond with that money. They'll just use it on different projects and such. Senate Bill 1094 was just the feds with their COVID relief money. This bill just authorized the state of Idaho, ITD, to use that funding. It's a bunch of block grants. Unfortunately, there's no restrictions or carve outs for things like TAP, which we had hoped that there would be. TAP is still eligible, and we're working with ITD to see if we can, have them send $1 million or $2 million over to TAP or some other kind of bike friendly program. And let's see. There was a bill, Senate Bill 1099, which would have increased fees for running red lights. That bill didn't ever see the light of day. In fact, it never even got a hearing. Senate Bill 1100, it would have also died in committee on the House side. This bill would have changed the definition of highways to include public transportation and bicycle facilities. And then the final bill that we've kind of been following was Senate Bill 1132, which provided a driver authorization card for non-citizens. And what was really great about this bill is it allows, this would require folks to actually learn that are not citizens, that are, they would be able to get a card, but they'd have to pass a driver's test, and they would have to learn the rules of the road, and including the rules of the road for walkers and bikers. I think this bill is going to come back again, and I think in the next couple of years it will pass, but it'll be a struggle. So those are the big transportation bills that we have. And then just as the session is continuing on, there's kind of a couple of big pictures issues that are keeping folks around. One is kind of the balance of power. The legislature did not like the fact that the governor kind of had unilateral power to declare emergencies, extend emergencies, and spend federal COVID relief money without their approval. So they haven't made too many changes to the power of the governor because he's vetoed them, and so far they haven't been able to override him on these. So there's still one hanging around in the Senate, and we'll see what happens there. There's also kind of the culture war stuff going on, where you've got folks on the education side of things and killing various appropriation bills one after the other, it seems like, to deal with issues dealing with race and other items like that. And then finally, which I think nobody's necessarily talking about, but I think it may come up before the end of the year, and that is the census and redistricting. Probably in September at some point in time, the federal census numbers are going to be released. and Idaho is going to have to redistrict its 35 legislative districts. And I think the Republicans are going to want to change the way that's done, and I think they might try to do it in September, perhaps, maybe not. But right now, Idaho is like one of maybe 5 states where the redistricting process is not controlled by one party or the other. In Idaho, it's 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, and they've got to agree on the districts, and so it's worked out pretty well, I think, in Idaho. However, with this legislature, I think they've been proposing to extend the session to like September or longer, and I think this is really the reason that they want to do that. They want to see what these numbers are going to say, and how it may affect their reelection. Because in the next election in 2022, will be redistricted. So there's going to be, I fully expect the Treasure Valley to pick up maybe 2 of those 35 seats, and maybe like Kootenai County to maybe get another one, maybe something in the Idaho Falls. I mean, so the rural counties are going to have less and less representation, and that, I think they're going to try and hold on to that as much as they can. So that's that's my legislative summary, and I'd be happy to open up for questions on transportation or just general legislation. And so I'll open any questions.
I'm sure somebody in this group has got a question or a comment. So anybody have a question for Lance, transportation or otherwise? Maybe we're all just worn out from the legislative session this year and nobody wants to talk about it anymore. It has been kind of long.
Well, if there's no questions, I just want to say from my end, it's my privilege and to represent you guys over on the Capitol, and I look forward to doing it in the future as well. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Lance. Well, and we've already started strategizing and planning what we're going to do to get ready for next year. So that's already, that's already started to happen. And we will continue our efforts. Pat, did you have a question? No, okay. Good. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time today. Thank you, Lance, for your presentation and the update. Thanks everybody for contacting your legislators when we ask you to. It makes a huge difference, and we cannot do this without that. That's a big part of what we do, and we rely on all of you when we need people to write letters and make phone calls. So thanks for that, everybody.